All right, it's 10:30, so we can get started. My voice is a little off. I had a cold 2 weeks ago, and my voice is still recovering, and I just spoke at the right before this too, so if my voice is a little patchy, that's why. I apologize. But we're here creating a visitor-friendly space inside your building. My name is Crystal Brutlag. I work with multiple churches as well as a few religious nonprofits in communications, so website, social media, all of this stuff online, but then also I have worked with churches inside the building. Once we get people inside, what can we do to just make the space more welcoming and make sure that they feel like they have a place? I work with multiple churches. As I said, I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I work with Messiah Lutheran in Lakeville. We have Minnesota people. I work with Messiah Lutheran in Lakeville, St. John Lutheran in Woodbury, Family of Christ in Holton, Wisconsin, which is right across the border. And then I also work with Christ Lutheran Church in Breckenridge, Colorado. So I do branch outside of the metro area, especially when you're like a nice mountain town that I can periodically visit. So yeah, I work with multiple churches, and everything that I'm talking about I have implemented in at least one of the churches that I work with. And as a disclaimer, I'm not telling you that you need to do all of these things. I'm just presenting things that we've done that have been helpful for us in our churches, and you can do with that information as you like. But first, before we get started, I want you to think of one person in your life. I'm sure there are more, but think of at least one person in your life who doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. For me, that is my best friend. She actually just sent me a text while I was speaking last time. I haven't looked at it yet, but I will do that after this. She just had a baby. Because I had a cold, I haven't met the baby yet, but I am anxious to get back and meet her baby. But she and I have been best friends since we were in 7th grade, and she's one of the closest people in my life. She doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. She is Buddhist, and so she's somebody that I think about a lot when I put things out online or work with churches. So I would like you guys all to think of somebody and write the name of that person down if you have something to write that name down on, or just keep that name in your mind. So we're going to be talking about inside the building, but really creating a welcoming space starts before they enter your door. I met with, actually, they joined and she immediately signed on to direct VBS because nobody else was agreeing to lead it. So when I met with her to talk about putting VBS on the website, she said, we made a list of churches in the area, and if they didn't have a website or if they had a bad one, we didn't go to that church. So that, I've always known that your web presence is very important when it comes to having people come to your church, but that just illustrated how important it was that even if you had one and it was bad, or if you didn't have one at all, this younger couple just wouldn't even check out the building. I'm sure we've all heard this all before, that your website is the new front door to your church. That combined with usually a social media presence. I've heard that people will look at your website and they will also go to Facebook, or if Google you, try to find you someplace else online, find you in 2 spots before they'll even step foot in your door. So really making sure that you are online, that people can find you, that you have a Facebook presence. I usually, when advising for churches, start with Facebook. Making sure you have those is a good place to get started. When it comes to your website isn't about you. The website is about the person who is visiting it. Who here has heard of StoryBrand? Okay. So StoryBrand is a concept from Donald Miller, and it's basically putting yourself in the guide position for the person who's coming to your website. So the person coming to your website is your hero. they do not want to know about you. They want to know how you fit into their life. So you, as their guide, design a website specifically with the intent of showing people how they can fit into your community. So one of the ways that I have done this with churches is that we have all of the text is written not like at Messiah, periodically that will come out as I'm writing, but typically I address the person who's actually visiting the website. So for the children's pages, your child will start in this grade, and once they finish this, then they move to confirmation. So really addressing them, having a conversation with them online. It doesn't need to be formal. You don't need to put your church name in all the time. They likely know what church website they're on. If not, they can hopefully look in the corner and see your church name. So really make sure that you're talking to the visitor on the website. And then use your website to ease the initial anxiety that people have about going to church. A lot of people do come to church with anxiety based on past experiences they've had or just being in a new place. I think the lockdown has kind of exacerbated some of that anxiety as well. We were on our own for so long that it's kind of scary to branch out, especially if you're going someplace new. Even as somebody who works with churches, I have had some negative experiences at churches growing up, and I go to new churches with a level of anxiety. So you can use your website to help ease that initial anxiety they might feel by giving them a look at what your congregation is like. So have pictures, make sure they're not stock pictures, but actual pictures of actual people at your church. Have pictures of people mingling, have pictures of the worship service so that they can see what it's like. One thing that one church and I will do, this isn't always on the website, but will always be on our Facebook page, is when we're intentionally inviting people to church, we do a video so the pastor can walk you through and give you a glimpse of what the worship space will be like, just so that people can start to visualize themselves there before they even come, and that can help ease some of that anxiety. Also try to be as clear as possible about how certain things are, like if you have a dress code, put that on your website. If you don't have a dress code, put that on your website so that they know. If there are any notes you want to have about children, for instance, the church that I attend is the one in Woodbury. I need a drink of water, hold on. And this is, well, most churches, I think, love children. This is a church that really loves children. Our pastor has 5. So on the website, we even have a note, your children, we love to have your children here. Even if they make noise, they're probably not louder than our pastor's 5 kids. We also have places where they can go if parents get uncomfortable with the amount of movement or noise that they're making. So we have that listed on the website as well. But we do assure them that that we love to hear their children. And then take advantage of the reviews on Facebook and Google My Business. The best way to advertise your church is through word of mouth, and obviously with people that we don't know. They don't have a friend who's recommending them, but reviews are actually becoming a reliable source for people. Think of like when you go to a restaurant, if you're looking at different ones, you're likely to go to the one that has higher reviews than ones that have lower reviews. And these reviews are really becoming kind of a type of word of, like, the same weight, they can carry the same weight as a review from a friend or an invitation from a friend. So take advantage of this. I am trying to do a coordinated effort at one of my churches to get our reviews updated, and it's a little bit of a struggle, but I don't think the elders are doing their part in it yet, so we need to work on that. But just make sure, also, another great reason to have people review your church on Facebook and Google My Business is that there are going to periodically be people who visit who don't like your church. Not every church is for every person. Those are the people who are most likely to leave a review on their own, the ones who didn't like it. So if you have a higher number of positive reviews, then those negative reviews that come in won't lower your rating quite as much. And this doesn't this always seems superficial to talk about, but again, it's just about getting people into the church and letting people know that you're there. Google likes it when you use their products, so if you have people leaving reviews, they like that. And then you can utilize a plan your visit feature on your website. We have this on one of my church's websites, and it has been helpful. We don't get like a ton of responses to it all the time, but we do have people who regularly fill this out. So what it is basically a form where people can tell us when they're planning to come. We've actually had people fill this out months in advance as well, and the most recent one I saw that came in months in advance, that couple, after they visited, joined the church.
What church is that?
St. John in Woodbury. Yep. And so basically what we do is we have a couple pages that link specifically to this form, and those pages, whenever we do ads on Facebook, I will link to those pages in the ad, and we're basically collecting a little bit of information, your name, when we can expect you to come, and what service. That way we're looking out for you. All these responses go to the pastor currently, and when he meets them, he can welcome them, and he's already been expecting them. Also, if your church does visitor gifts, which at that church we are actually working on ordering our visitor gifts right now, but then you can personalize the gift for them, like put in a little bag, write their name. Just a nice extra step. Also, if you offer guest parking, you could even reserve a parking spot for them. Just extra little touches to let them know that you're happy they're there, you're anticipating them, and make the experience for them more personalized. All right, so they came. You've done all this work online. They're in your building. Parking. Do you have enough parking? Do you have easily accessible parking for visitors? So I'm a pastor's daughter, and I grew up in Wisconsin, and then I say that I was raised in Wisconsin. When I was 9, yes, Wisconsin's great. When I was 9, we moved to Minnesota, and I was not happy. The only good thing about this church in Minnesota is that there was a parking spot right up front of the parking lot reserved for the pastor. I was like, this is great. Since I have to come here, at least I don't have to walk far. We got there and my dad took it down. And we always parked in the back. I was like, this was the only perk. But he said we should not be parking up front. The visitors should have a space up front, and he would encourage your congregation to leave those areas available as well, unless, if for people who needed a handicap spot, take your handicap spot. But if you can walk, park further back. Let the families with children, let the visitors have that front spot. So some churches will do this by designating parking spots specifically for their visitors. Now they're coming into the building. Do you have greeters? Do you have people who are welcoming them into the building? And then how exuberant are your greeters as well? It's important to have people there to welcome them in. But I do have a friend, I've heard from multiple people, I want to be greeted, but just don't make a big deal about it. Don't be fakely upbeat, just say hello as normal. Don't ask for my life story, and don't give me yours. Just treat me like normal, but be there to greet me and say hi. Do you have a staffed nursery? Again, the churches that I work with, we all love having children in worship, and we make sure that people are aware that we want your children there. But there are people that expect a nursery. That's kind of the thing right now with bigger churches. I was at Messiah one morning. I was preparing a video. We were getting ready to unleash a new vision, and so I had this video idea of the congregation saying different parts of our vision statement. So I was there. Our recording studio is actually a little room in the nursery, so I was sitting in the nursery pulling people in. And at that time, we didn't have a staff nursery. A new couple walked in with their 2-year-old. And I was sitting at the desk in the nursery, they came up to me and they said, hey, we'd like to check our son into the nursery. I said, we actually don't have a staff nursery, I'm going to be in and out. But you're welcome to be here with him if you need to pull him out of the service. But we'd love to have him in the worship service with us. The wife was fine with that. She had grown up at a smaller church where that was how things were done. The husband had not. And the look of fear that passed across his face. They ended up taking their son into the sanctuary with them. But that couple never returned. And ever since then, we do have a staffed nursery. We don't always have people who take advantage of it, but we don't want to have that look of fear on somebody's face again. We hope that people will always eventually feel comfortable bringing their children into the worship space with us, but there are people who aren't ready for that yet. Another friend of mine very exuberantly stated, I don't want to look like an outsider. She was at a church, it was a Catholic church. There was a bunch of standing and kneeling, and there was nobody guiding the service. So make sure that pastors, whoever is leading the worship service, that they are telling people what they need to do throughout the service. For everybody else, you kind of know, but visitors might not know, and it's helpful for them to be guided. Name tags. This one is always somewhat controversial. Are they really a way to be friendly and welcoming to visitors, or are they not? So I know that people love the idea of name tags that way, like when you're just mingling with people who you know are members, but you can't remember their name. You can see what their name is. I get that because I'm really bad with names. So I never use people's names, but and then when visitors have their name tag, it's a way to be able to talk to them and call them by name, make them feel like part of the congregation. However, their name tags always look different because they have a handwritten name tag and other people have a printed name tag usually. But also, if people aren't wearing a name tag, my dad came with me to one of my churches once, and there was a man who was walking around the lobby, and he was talking to everybody, and he bypassed my dad. And the only difference is that my dad didn't have a name tag, and he did notice that this man was talking to people by name. And we don't know that he was bypassed because he didn't have a name tag. Maybe the man recognized that he didn't know him and didn't stop to talk to him. That's quite possible too. But my dad's first thought was, I'm not wearing a name tag, and that's why he walked by me. So just something to be aware of. Is it really as welcoming as we think? It is identifying the visitor.
We just started about 6 months ago with name tags, printed up magnets, and there was a lot of hesitation, for that same reason, everybody knows my name, or I don't want to have to put a name tag on every Sunday. But everybody has embraced it after now that it's been implemented. We put the name tags back in we all have little mailboxes, so we don't take them home, and they're always there. And if you don't have one, you can assume that they're a visitor, and they're easier to approach, saying, oh, I see you don't have a name tag. Have I missed you, or are you new? Kind of thing. But I think it's for the hesitation and kind of the knack that they were getting, the outreach community did a really good job.
That's nice. Yeah, and like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this. I know that, I personally don't wear a name tag. That's partly because I forget to put one on. But I know people who kind of follow both sides. I don't know that we necessarily want to do the name tags. They are nice to have. I think there are pros and cons to them, and it's something to consider, and your church culture is definitely going to play a role in that. This is going back to I don't want to stand out as a visitor. I had no idea what was going on and what I was supposed to do. You can't assume that everybody knows what's happening. So again, just making sure, even as simple as you start your service, not even throughout the service telling them when to stand up, when to sit down, describing how communion will work. I know when I go to a new church, that's one of my things is how does communion work? Because you don't always get that information. At the beginning, saying in your welcoming, letting people know where they can find certain things, like if you want to connect with us, here's a connect card. If you have like bags for the children who are sitting in the worship service. Let people know where they can find them just in case they walk past them. I know a lot of churches aren't passing an offering plate anymore during the offering, just for your members or members who haven't been there for a while, letting them know how that works. Because actually at Messiah we have had questions about the offering before. So just letting people know how different things work that are so kind of like part of your culture that you don't even think of them, but other people might not know them. Guide the people through the worship service, and then communion, talk about communion as well. Connect cards. So they're here. We want to connect with them. Have a connect card that's readily accessible, whether I like having both one that's in the pew that they can handwrite and fill out if they're there. If you do have a welcome gift, have them take that to where they can pick up the welcome gift to get their gift for being a visitor. And then also have one available online and let them know how they can access that, whether it's giving them the web address, giving them a QR code. My church is, well, at St. John we do all three. At Messiah, we sometimes have to remind the pastor to include that in his opening, but that way you're collecting their information, and don't ask for too much information. I'm a fan. I haven't gotten a church to whittle it down this much yet, but I'm a fan of name, email, address, phone number. And they can give whatever they want, but just ask for the bare minimum. I know when people are asking for my information, if you give me a card and it's just like name and email address, I'll fill that out. But if you're asking for more than that, I'm probably not going to fill it out. So just get the bare minimum so that you can follow up with them and thank them for having come to see your church. Signage inside your building. Do people know where to go? Do people know where the sanctuary is? Do they know where the children's Sunday school area is? Do they know where the bathrooms are? Just go through your building and make sure that everything is clear so that they don't have to ask questions. They always can, and hopefully there are people to help direct them, but some people might want to navigate on their own at first. So do people know where to go when they enter your building? How many of your churches have like a welcome center or a welcome wall? Nice. Okay. These are helpful stations to have, just a place that's manned where people can come with any questions that they have. If you do have like physical brochures, this is a nice place to have them so that people can see what opportunities there are for you at their what opportunities they have at your church. But just a place where, like I said, they can go ask any questions that they have. And it should be like clearly designated. Yeah.
For those that have it, you guys just have it in like before service, after service, just for 15 minutes or so, or as long as needed.
Yeah.
How important is to have that welcome center manned, or is it, can it be on its own without?
It can be on its own without a person. I think that is a place that I would try to prioritize having manned, just because if they have questions, then there's somebody that they can talk to. And even if that person doesn't know all the answers, if that person follows up, then you can get that question answered. And it's a nice personal touch to have somebody there. Also, if you have gifts for visitors, like this is a place where you can hand them out. But there are churches that don't always have it manned. Actually, one of my churches doesn't have it manned only because there's really not enough space in the lobby for that. There was another question over here, I think. Yes?
So, I don't know if you have any plan to talk about this or any ideas, but what about gifts? Like, is
Yes.
there a good gift to offer? Something we're going through right now? Like, what makes sense? Like, what is practical? What
Yeah.
do you want?
Yeah. So I tend to stay away from things like mugs because that seems to be a big thing that people get. I always err on the side of not trying to clutter spaces. So coffee gift cards to like a local coffee shop, usually one with a drive-through just to make it easier for people. We have done hats. I live in Minnesota, so for Christmas we had a special hat that we were giving to visitors, and that was actually a hit. They all went. We have looked at straws, reusable straws, little things like that. If you do pens, make sure they're good quality pens. But like little things that people can actually use and aren't just going to clutter and take up space. Another thing that a church that I work with has done is we have a list of organizations, and we'll donate $5 to an organization of your choice from this list. And that actually gets a good response. Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Do you have donations to a charity or something?
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Just say, like, we have the list of, well, at one church we have an organization that we support, and say this is the organization that will support, this is a smaller mountain town. And if you fill out the Connect card,
Choosing?
yep, so if you fill out, so at another church, like at Messiah, we have 6 organizations that we highlight throughout the year. And so we have said, if you fill out this Connect card, we're excited to get connected with you. You can choose an organization from this list. We'll donate $5 on your behalf to this organization. Yeah, and people like that because it's money that's going to a good cause. And it's not, again, cluttering and taking up space. Yes.
We do chocolate bars from Aldi, and we put a wrapper on it that has some fun stuff for the ingredients, but the main thing that's on there is our website,
Yes.
so that they can take that home with them and then do a little bit more.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yep. We, at Messiah, we've done bags of popcorn. Thank you for popping in. Yes. Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
There's like a coupon that's in the welcome bag.
Nice.
Take that coupon, the coffee place recognizes it, so you just go, take that coupon and then it bills back to the church.
Oh, nice. That's a great idea. And it supports a local coffee shop. They have a coupon in their welcome bag for a local coffee shop, and then you take that to the coffee shop, and then it also impacts the church. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Oh, nice.
That's like everywhere.
Okay. So yeah, I like that idea that the coffee shop then bills the church. That's a nice thing to do, and supporting local businesses in the community. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Churchies. Churches use a lot of terms that people don't always know. For instance, I've been referring to the narthex as a lobby because not everybody knows what a narthex is. I grew up in the church. I'm a PK. I finally figured out what a narthex was when I took art history classes and was tested on the layout of a cathedral. So even somebody who grew up in the church knew that word but wouldn't have been able to tell you exactly where it was. I would have hemmed and hawed quite a bit. And actually at Messiah, the person who was in my position before me didn't grow up in a Lutheran church or a Catholic church, and people kept referring to the narthex. So she had no idea what they were talking about. She finally asked, and that's when Messiah started referring to the narthex as the lobby, just to make it clear. I have found that people usually know the sanctuary, but I have called it the worship space. Also, words like fellowship. When you hear the word fellowship, what comes to mind? Food, drinks. I quiz people, hospitality. I quiz people on Instagram, and I also asked the church staff at Messiah, and everybody had a different answer. Usually like, it was being able to talk to people. Some people thought that there should be coffee. Some people thought that there should be food. One person on Instagram said it made him think of Lord of the Rings. So, fellowship, again, I'm not telling you you can't use that word. I have kind of given up a few places because fellowship is just, I can't change it, and that's fine. I usually talk about connecting with other people. So, for instance, the church in Colorado, whenever I send out an email, they call it fellowship, but I say stay after for refreshments and a chance to connect with everybody. So I focus on if there's going to be food there, I let them know, and I focus on the relational aspect.
we used to say bulletin, but I cannot say bulletin in my church because no one would know what that is.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice.
Our worship guide.
Worship guide? Nice.
If I said, will you help me pass out these bulletins? What is that?
That's interesting. I like worship guide or program. That sounds like a clear thing. That's interesting, though. I've never heard of a church that doesn't know what a bulletin is.
What do y'all think instead then?
Worship folder, worship, whatever it is. But no, it's in Memphis, so I don't know.
Interesting.
It's not a word it is.
Well, and we had the group that they say we're serving fellowship, and I'm like, we're not serving fellowship, we're serving snacks.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I'm trying to get that whole, like, it's the Sunday snacks, so I even tried to have a little contest of what can we call it instead of fellowship, and I'm like, there's a fellowship table, we're serving fellowship, we're having fellowship, and I'm like, nobody knows what fellowship is anymore.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It means so many different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say call it what it is, and I think,
Yeah.
so I like, we call Sunday snacks, and
Yep.
you know, we're serving.
That's
we're
perfect.
serving.
Yeah, but it's clear. Everybody knows what you're talking about when you say Sunday snacks. Next steps. Are there next steps within your congregation clear? So at Messiah, we have pizza with the pastor once a month on the first Sunday each month. That's after worship at 11:30. We order pizza. You can meet with the pastor. We make sure people know that that's pretty much a constant. I think I take it out of announcements maybe 1 week of the month. But that's always there so people know that pizza with the pastor.
And what's the intent?
It's a time for visitors to have a chance to talk to the pastor and ask any questions that they might have.
Right after church or?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's after.
What about regular, like, do members come or just visitors?
If members wanted to come, they could, but it's intentionally a space for visitors. And since we do collect contact information, we'll also reach out to people who have visited to let us know that this is coming, but we always advertise it so people know that it's there. Yes?
Do you have childcare provided, and also is this connected with how you do membership? Not that I'm trying to jump in.
Yes. So I actually don't know if childcare is provided. That's a good question. I believe so, but I would have to confirm that. But children are always welcome, and it's pizza, so it's going to be hard to get the kids to leave. But yeah, and then we do also have a membership class, so we offer that like every couple months.
Have you ever had a day where you order the pizza and then nobody shows? Because I feel like that would happen a lot of times. We don't have a whole lot of new members
Yeah.
people, so if we planned it once a month and ordered a bunch of pizza, and my husband's just sitting there waiting for people.
For people to come.
I was wondering what you do with that. Like, do you ask them to, RSVP ahead, or do you
Yep.
like,
Yeah, we do ask them to let us know if they're coming. And I know that there have been times that they've been worried that nobody will come. I don't attend that church on Sunday, so I've never actually been there to see. But that's a good question. I can follow up and leave a message on the app if that's happened and what they did.
Did you ask that?
Yeah, I did.
I'll put you after.
Okay, thank you. That'd be helpful.
I would assume it hasn't happened because I haven't had leftover pizza on a Monday yet. And I'm assuming that's what we do with it. Somebody's taking it, yeah. 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 Yes.
Just for context, with the pizza with the pastor, is that for the smaller Messiah church, or is that for, you're at Woodbury? I can't remember.
Yes, so I am at Messiah, which is actually a larger congregation, and then I'm with a church in Woodbury, and that's a smaller congregation. So Pizza with the Pastor is with the larger congregation. And we also used to have a thing called Discover Messiah, which didn't have the pastor and was lay-led. So we would have a member of, a leader in the congregation. We had donuts. This was during the Bible study hour. We would have donuts and have a member of the congregation there instead of the pastor. Actually, our rule for that one was pastor is not allowed because we didn't want people who might have some anxiety with the pastor to feel uncomfortable. And the pastor actually said that he has seen visitors who, when he introduces himself as the pastor, they're like, oh. But I guess we're not as concerned about that with pizza and the pastors.
And then, just for some more context, how large is yours, the St. John's, the smaller?
The smaller one is we have I think, around 150, 160 who worship on a weekend, and we have a membership of about 300, a little over that. Yeah. Yep. It has grown quite a bit in recent years because we have a newer, younger pastor. I think he's been a big part of it. And I think also, like, when they fill out our Connect card, they've heard about us on Facebook and on the website and stuff. So our social media efforts have also paid off there.
Yeah, I just wanted some context.
Oh, yeah. And then Messiah averages about maybe like 400, 500 attendance on a weekend. They have a membership of 1,500, I believe, but we are planning to go through that because we haven't done that for a few years just to see how many are actually still here. St. John is actually planning to do that too because the pastor reached out to somebody who hadn't visited for a while and found out that they moved. And just hadn't told us. And he also reached out to another person and found out that they had died, and we just hadn't been notified. So, the pastors do actively reach out, but we are seeing a need to kind of just go through just to see, accurately what we have. Yes.
So is that how you're going to do it? The pastor is going to reach out to everybody that you don't see?
At Messiah, it's probably going to be the elders who, with this concentrated effort. With St. John, it'll be a mix of the pastor and the elders. But the pastor is, the pastor there, he's really like a personal guy, and he likes to get to know people, so he likes making the contacts. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of this presentation where we had one person in mind. All of these things that we've talked about are ways to make people feel welcome, ease any anxiety they have coming to church. You're not going to completely ease it, but, help. Let them see that this is a space in a community that they belong in and see how they belong. So let's go back to the beginning, to that person in our life who doesn't know Jesus. And think about the churches near them. These are always things that I hope that the church near my best friend will think about as they prepare for visitors. Because if she walks in that door, I want her to feel welcome and valued and loved. And I want her to see a place where she can belong. So as you're looking around at your church and thinking through things, just think about your one. Because every visitor that comes into your building is somebody's person. Are there any other questions? Anything that you have in mind that I haven't talked about yet? Yes?
I have Connect cards.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on, I guess, what the information is is it just reaching out to them and asking them, letting them know that thank you for coming? I mean, are you doing it by the phone?
Mm-hmm.
By email? Is it dependent on what information they give you?
Yeah, it's dependent on the information we give them, and we do actually, so we ask for both name and email. We also ask for their preferred method of contact. So, like at CLC, I used to enter the information that we'd get from the Connect card, and I would always forward that to the pastor and let him know how they prefer to be contacted. So if that's a phone call, the pastor will call. If it's an email, he'll send an email. If it's neither, I think pastors text if they want text messages.
And would you ask them if they would like to be added to like the newsletter or something if they're not ready to come as a regular member?
Yeah.
The purpose of the phone call and the contact is to...
The purpose of the phone call is mainly just to thank them for coming. Like, we saw that you were here. Thank you for coming. We enjoyed having you here. Once we wait a little while at most of the churches for multiple visits before we start inquiring about the newsletter. Kind of that, like, we don't want to be pushy. Yeah, we don't want to be pushy. We don't want to scare you away. But we also want you to know pretty quickly that you can join our email list and stay connected that way as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And we do, in the phone call, along with welcoming people, tell them different ways they can stay connected with us. Yes?
I was wondering if you might be covering creating spaces within your building that are conducive to people gathering for fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just people kind of standing around, like creating
Yes.
nice
Yes.
areas.
That is a good point of having places, especially seating spaces, that allow for people to linger and fill up a space. At Messiah, we created that. Messiah has a fairly large lobby, so we were able to put in benches, and we just went to a lot of, when we got the new Welcome Center, we went to a lot of different business supply centers, and so we were able to look at what Welcome Centers they had, and we also sat on a lot of benches to find ones that were comfortable, that were also easy to move should we need to like reorganize things. At St. John, we have a very small lobby. There's like a chair or two where people can sit if they need to, but I'm working on getting people to open up the door into the fellowship hall, so that where we have more seating, so that people can also, like, they're not cramped in the lobby if you want to talk. There's a space where you can flow into, and we're working on that with CLC as well. I'll have her and then you. Yes.
So going off of that, you say you guys sat on a lot of benches. So what does the team look like that you have that is kind of implementing these things? Like, is it, and what would you say are like key things to have our teams look at or look through things about when we're talking hospitality?
Okay, so our team, the one thing I would say is that we should have had somebody on the team who has some sort of disability that we, like, maneuverability might, how can you easily get in and out of this, or somebody who was older who might struggle getting up and down. We didn't have that, so we had basically me, we had the parish admin, and we had our director of outreach at the time, which isn't a paid position, it's a council position, but I would say have a couple people. But I would also include like somebody who's older, somebody who is just not as mobile as other people might be, to make sure that the everything is comfortable, but also you can get in and you can get up and down easily. Luckily, it worked out. Like, people seem to appreciate what we got. The other thing I would say is start in your parking lot. If you have a wheelchair in your building, start in your parking lot in the wheelchair and wheel yourself through the building and see how easy it is to get around that way. I know a lot of buildings are handicap accessible, but are they as handicap accessible as they could be? Or if you can, hire somebody who has a disability who might be able to do this for you. I am a big fan of houseplants, so I follow a couple houseplant shops in my area, and there's actually a person local who has a walker who on social media goes to different plant shops and rates their accessibility, and will also consult with the plant shop owners to tell them how they can make their building more accessible. So if you can I don't know how to find somebody like that who would do that for a church. I would like to see if there's somebody who's doing that, but just to have the like owned experience perspective. But if you can't get that, like, go out in the parking lot with a wheelchair and get yourself in and out.
And do you have like a team that carries out kind of like the philosophy or vision of hospitality then? Like,
Yes. Yep. So at Messiah, we have that falls under the outreach team. At St. John, we have the fellowship committee. Again, fellowship, but they do that. And then at CLC, that's the small mountain town. They have like a regular. We have a decent size membership when you factor in the associate members, but the like people who live there full time, that's a smaller group. So everybody just kind of pushes in. There is a fellowship director, and she coordinates most things, but that's kind of all hands on deck sort of a place. Yes. Oh, we'll do her first because she was waiting, and then I'll come back to you. Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you have guidance on all the community communication that happens on site typically at churches, not just for visitors but also for members. So you have churches where we've got the bulletin boards, the sign-up sheets, the pamphlets, the flyers, the booklets, the synodical resources and all that. And then some that just go all digital or some other process altogether. I don't know what kind of plans do you have for managing all that?
For managing all of it, I would really simplify it. Like that first scenario you described is a lot. I advocate less is more, but making sure that like people know where to get the information. So make sure you have announcement slides like before worship service, but also make sure that like you don't have 20 slides in one slideshow, so that you're filtering through the most relevant information. Like we have this event coming up. This is kind of an overview of the month. This is, we have pizza with the pastor on this day. So at Messiah, we used to have an announcement bulletin along with the announcement slides, and we don't do the bulletin right now. I'm hoping personally that doesn't come back. I put a copy of the weekly email that we send out online, and I'd like to refer people there and just have less paper. But now that we don't, I always had like a limit of 5 slides for pre-service announcements. I do go a little beyond that now. I try not to go past like 8, but I do a little bit more now that we're not printing out the information. If there is something like we have a holiday, we'll give you a sheet like these are Bible studies coming up, these are events coming up, this is how you can get connected. I just think we can make a lot of it digital. So taking what would be a bulletin, put that online, telling them how they can access that, sending the email, making sure the information's on the website. And then the churches that I work with don't do bulletin boards for announcements anymore. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of people that are older in our church.
Mm-hmm.
Older than me. And they're not in paycheck or strong or email. How do you address that?
I have found that more often than not, they're willing to get involved when they find out how beneficial it will be for them. And I've had people who like come in, and we use Realm at Messiah, and there have been times that I've talked to people and the rest of the staff is like, how'd you get that person to sign up on Realm? And I just told them what the benefit of it would be. But we also recognize that not everybody even has the tech. So we use elders for that to distribute information.
You use what? Realm?
Yeah, Realm. So Realm is a program. I'm not sure that I would necessarily recommend it. We just use it. It's part database, so we have people on it. It's basically a way that we can communicate with you throughout the week. So instead of doing like an email on like MailChimp or some sort of program like that, we send it through Realm. That's my biggest frustration, is I can't actually control how it looks. Like I can't do much for formatting. It allows us to post events, so we do some of our signups that way, but we also supplement with Sign Up Genius. And then it's a way that we can, like I said, communicate throughout the week. So like limited people have access to the full congregation, so it's like just staff. But we can put updates. So like tomorrow is our Prime Timers event. Make sure you come. Things like that. And so I do like it. I recommend it in that I like it. I just think it's not as robust as it could be for the price that I'm assuming we're paying for it. Okay. Okay. Yep. Yeah, it's also great for that. We do online giving that way, and it's great for distributing our statements. Yep, that's the other nice feature of it, is it has groups. So we have like our main church group, and then we also have confirmation groups. So I think the people who are more involved in the little groups get more benefit out of it. And my frustration is we've had to supplement, like you can do sign-ups on it, but the sign-up ability isn't as robust as it needs to be. So we supplement with Sign Up Genius, and I just think for what we're paying for it, we shouldn't have to supplement with something else.
You haven't found anything in the Concordia realm that is equivalent?
Not yet. Yeah. Yes.
That was gonna be my question. I would love to hear, are there church management softwares that you actually love?
Planning Center.
I've heard great things about Planning Center. Yeah.
Database and financials?
Yeah, everything.
It does financials as well.
But it's got, you can make an app out of it.
It's so good.
So, do you have like a good advice for like translation? Like we hire like a real-time translator, and we have like devices for people that need it in Spanish. But then I'm thinking, well, like on our website, is there, do you have advice for that? Like we probably need to have the information
In other languages?
Yes.
I would look for somebody who can do that. So I don't have like a resource to send you.
Like a magic button and like, oh no, it's in Spanish.
No.
Yeah, no, it's Google
No.
Translate.
Yeah.
I've like worked in churches where we just took one of our congregants who was bilingual, or that was their first language, where she would like watch the sermon even and translate it.
Oh, that's
Well,
great.
we hire another pastor from a different church that he's not moving, but he gets the sermon and the whole service in advance, and then he does it in real time. He translates it as it's happening, and then they can just pick up the device and they're hearing this. They're in the worship service, it's in English, but they're hearing it.
Yeah. I would see if somebody in your congregation would be able to do that, because it's for your website. You want that personal touch of like, not like Google Translate, like.
That's what I'm saying.
They can make some, like, they can, and usually people know, like,
What would be more welcoming?
yeah.
Too, also.
Yeah, and they'll know exactly. And Google Translate does funny things, and I think most people know that it's Google translated then. Like, I had relatives who lived in Colombia, so I visited a few times, and every once in a while you'd see, like, poisonous ants on the menu, and you knew that, like, they did include ant in food sometimes. You knew it wasn't poisonous, but, like, or, like, the poisonous yuca fries, which yuca, if prepared incorrectly, can be poisonous, but when prepared correctly, it isn't. But you'd see that word poisonous pop up periodically, and we were like, well, that's a Google Translate issue. So you don't want that.
Another thing to be considerate about is hearing impaired. A lot of older folks can't hear. They're used to hearing, and then they get frustrated. We sold it by T-coil. If you've never heard of it, T-coil. It's just a wire that wraps around your building and then attaches to your sound system. Anybody that has hearing aids, all they have to do is go to their audiologist. You just tell them, and they get an extra setting in their hearing aids. So if you use a microphone, anytime you use a microphone, it goes straight to their hearing aids.
That's awesome.
They can adjust the sound.
What's it called?
T-coil.
Is it just like a T?
T-COIL.
Like it's
Now, we live in Northwest Arkansas. We did have to go to Tulsa to have it done. But all audiology for and like music and all that stuff, it's just a wire that goes around the room.
And
And your hearing aids, when they pick it up, it goes right to the hearing aids where their hearing aids is adjusted.
yeah.
Instead of you having to turn something up.
And also another thing you can do is talk to people who are hearing impaired within your congregation. Find out where the dead spots are, because there are likely dead spots, and then you can help direct people to, until you have something like this, where they'll best be able to hear. Also checking screens for visibility.
That was not embarrassing at all. I would have been very aware of that.
Also making sure your screens, if you use screens, that people are able to see them. Yes.
She was asking, we do have people that get a copy of the e-letter, physical copy, either mailed to them specifically if they don't use email. So we use Constant Contact, and then there's a couple people that don't have that, and then they like pick it up on Sunday morning.
Yeah, we mail some out.
And mail some out. It's cumbersome, but it means a lot to those people that don't have that.
Yeah.
One other quick question, like, what do you use? We're renovating some areas, and what do you do with, like, I'm kind of trying to vision Welcome Center that looks inviting also.
Yeah. So one thing that we really wanted was something that wasn't intrusive. So if you do have like a center, having something that people can come outside of, making sure that they do come outside of that. But also we make sure that it looks nice, like this isn't a dumping ground for stuff. Like we are pretty on top of making sure that it's clean and looks appealing. I'm really a fan of like a wall, because then people can't hide behind the center. And just having, like, if you do have printed information, having it arranged nicely. But we just looked at, like, we used Pinterest a lot and looked at different welcome centers. Whenever I'm at different churches, my sister hates taking me places if it's a church, because I stop and I take pictures of everything. So just be aware of what's around you. Use Pinterest. We had a Pinterest board that we shared and had a lot of ideas in that for not only the welcome center or wall, but the like connect cards and things like that. You'll find a lot of resources there. And then there were a lot of things that we had in our Pinterest board that were definitely very like trendy design ideas, which is fine. I really like some of them, but for longevity, we went with kind of like a more minimal kind of look. So just keep that in mind if this is something that you're willing to work on again in a few years. Go with a trendier design if you want to. If it's something that you just kind of want to have in place for a while, maybe make sure it's more classic. We also thought a lot about like the font of our welcome sign, because we wanted to make sure it was easy to read. And actually we were able to get our welcome sign in Century Gothic, which is one of the brand fonts for Messiah. So yeah, we just looked at every detail, and this was like a year-long process that we just went through every detail and what was clean and nice and allowed for interaction.
With the, with the welcome center, with the wall, what about, where do you put the gifts then? Or do you just have a little side?
Yeah, I never thought that far ahead because nobody ever went for my wall idea. But I would say just have a little cubby nearby where you can tuck the gifts in. It could even be like a wall that has a shelf that you can put them on, or you can have like a little table by the wall if you'd like that you can line things up on. But a wall, like my big thing with the wall itself was just so that people don't hide behind the booth.
Yeah, our pastor, he would, I mean, you don't really get, at least our church didn't get a whole lot of visitors every week. During the announcement, he would ask if there were any, visitors, and he would walk to them, and most of them would raise their hand, and so he'd walk over to them with a gift. We did little mini calendar, and he would hand it, and as he was doing that, he'd ask their name and where they're from, and that was it. Not really too intrusive to make them feel like everybody's looking.
Yeah.
But he had them out right at the beginning.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. And I still have the Pinterest board. It's owned by somebody else, so I can't distribute the link because it was private, but I can see if she can if I can somehow copy it and make that available. We had a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, that would be fun. It's good. It's fun to see other. I do take pictures of others.
You do? Yeah. Any other questions? I feel like I was missing somebody over here.
Oh, I had raised my hand.
Okay.
About the mingling center, lobby, whatever you want to call it. We're contemplating doing like stand-up tables. Have you found that those work well or don't work well? Is it better to have? We have.
Yeah. I think they work well, especially like if you have refreshments available, people can stand and talk and they have a place to put stuff. I would make sure that there's also seating for people who can't stand, but having those, and they're easy to move, like if you need to move them out of the way for something.
We did that at our church. We have standing tables, and I made sure that I got some that have stools with them that can go under the table. Because that way you can stand around it, or you can
sit.
But if there's a stool with like a back on it, then they tend to get in the way of the table itself.
Yeah, that's good. Yes.
We have those kind of tables with the stools underneath, but ours also have a chessboard engraved into the top of the table.
Oh, fun.
So that even like folks in the lobby playing chess or anybody check in a couple of seconds.
Oh, nice.
It's very inviting to encourage mingling.
Yeah.
Different heights. There's like this, you know, well, I mean, it's here, I'm tall, but and then there's lower ones too that kids can sit in. So
Nice.
there's a variety of heights.
Okay. That's cool. Yes. Let's go with you because you had your hand up earlier.
I was just wondering in your experience with communion, I know that there are people who feel uncomfortable when they first get to Christian church.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever brainstormed ideas of how to make that less uncomfortable for people when they first come in?
Yeah, so we have a card at Messiah that tells them that they need to like check in with an elder or somebody. We have those in the pews, but it also walks through what happens because the elders don't always, like, if somebody's able to do communion, the elders don't always share how it works. So we put that information and then we put why we asked them to check into an elder, just so that it doesn't feel like we don't want you invited, this is why we do it. So we have that. We have a selection of cards in the pews. One is communion. One is a brochure about children, just saying that we welcome them. But if you want them to run around the lobby for a little bit, you can hear the service out in the lobby. And if they need to like play, there's a nursery that's staffed. And then we also have, then we have the Connect card in that mix. And we have a prayer card, a prayer request card. Yep.
I don't know much about Pinterest. What would be the subject that we would look for to see samples
I would probably just Google like church welcome centers, or even like welcome centers and see what pops up, because you can get inspiration from places that aren't churches as well.
Does that cover other aspects like signage and things
Mm-hmm.
like that?
I would assume so. If not, then tailor like church signage, church welcome signage. I would tailor the search result if you're not finding exactly what you're looking for. Or you can contact, like we contacted an office supply company and they had worked with other churches as well. You can contact a few in your area, find out which ones have worked with churches, and then they actually took us, or I didn't take along on those, but they took some of the people on this team to visit some of the churches to see. And then we also connected, like Messiah has a lot of big churches in the area, like big mega churches. So we just contacted some of the churches and asked if we could come take a look at their setup, and they're always very like, yes, please come. Yes.
We built a new welcome wall. We redid our welcome center, and we have 3 different congregations, 3 different languages.
Okay, thank you.
And welcome signs.
Mm-hmm.
Anything cool was really, really, really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, let's buy a Cricut and make our own.
Mm-hmm.
So we bought a Cricut and made huge, welcome signs, put it on acrylic, and it looks professional.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good, if...
Acrylic?
Mm-hmm.
And like made it come out of the wall, like 3D kind of.
Yeah. Ah, yes.
I don't know if they're too shy to go over there and grab it, but we started putting the pastor actually made a card for us that like has like church information, like this is our Facebook page, this is our this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And we put it inside the welcome.
Oh, yes.
You have to go and grab it if they don't want it. If they don't want to, or they forget or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or they take it back. It's just that one card. It's not like
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. Keeping it the simple and having the card with information about the church and where they can find you online in that welcome packet, and making it accessible so that if they don't want to talk to people, they can still get it. Any other questions? All right. You're welcome. Yeah. I forgot to bring business cards, but if you do want to follow up with me after this, I have my information here, or you can find me on the app.